So we recently had a website redesign project for which we invited people to apply for. We asked the candidates to submit a short cover letter explaining what they find most interesting about this project. And this on your screen is 4 people who thought the exact same thing is interesting. Probably they're using the same chatbot to generate their response. And this actually blew my mind. This blows my mind every day when I see CVs covering letters, because it really makes you question if it is really that intelligent when it's giving the same generic answer to such an open-ended question. And why does AI do this, and will it really take your job if it is doing this on a mass scale?
Are entry-level jobs vanishing slowly? Is AI the villain?
Many people say AI is just a marketing blanket term for a lot of different technologies. That's kind of true. I mean, of course, you need to market it to the big companies and extract some money. In fact, the term AI was actually used in 1955. It was to attract funding for what was basically an automation project. Now, the word intelligence is kind of misleading in my opinion. A more accurate term would be machine learning. So, if you're now thinking that if AI is not really intelligent, then why does it sound intelligent? Banger question right there. It sounds intelligent just because of the vastness of data it's training on. मतलब जितना data, it's too much. बहुत सारा data है. Now these models have practically trained on all the text that we have, or all the text of human letters ever written, with single objective to simply predict the next word of this conversation. After enough repetitions across enough text, it starts absorbing the patterns of language, the domain knowledge, logic, the tone, and when you type a message, it generates the most likely continuation of what you were possibly going to say, one word at a time. This is not really thinking or reasoning. It's simply applying patterns from old data to the new data you've just fed. This distinction is supremely important because it's the source of every major problem that we have. Problem number 1, hallucination. Hallucinations still happen. Now, for those who you don't know, the most prevalent bug in all these intelligent chatbots, everyone's noticed, it's still not been solved. Now, how do we tackle this? The only way it's tackled right now, which is admittedly not the most efficient way to tackle it, is have the entire memory context of the conversation as an input every single time the chatbot is generating a new response. I mean, this is kind of a bandage fix and actually doesn't even fix anything. It just requires the system to load up a lot more of your conversation into memory before it can accurately answer. So basically that your conversation history in memory is your context window basically. So that's also probably why memory is in such high demand and it's kind of going into the shortage zone. Matlab, all forms of memory. Random access memory and actual hard disk SSD, everything. Now compare that to a human being. Now imagine accumulated years of experience, observation, or even reading and knowledge gain. Imagine that. Decades of accumulated context about a project or a field or even a client or a type of client. That long-term memory shapes every decision you make. There's a reason why more experienced people eventually do get paid more than younger, fresher people. It's because of that experience and that lived experience. Even modern models cannot simply do this. Even though they've trained on all available data, they just can't. Not in their current form and probably not for a decently long enough time. Now think about the most important tasks of any field or job, anything. They usually require more longer term context in your life. For example, building an entire software architecture across months and years. Even developing a kind of brand personality, managing cash flow, managing sales operation. And while we do tend to document these kind of projects when we actually do it, the reality is very messy. If a computer is left to do the jobs on its own, it will eventually hallucinate and fail. Like for example, if you're chronically online, Amazon is reviewing their own AI systems. They fired a lot of people first to do shit on AI. Now whatever AI vibe coding is happening, it's breaking shit crazily. Entire production का delete कर दिया मतलब एक और rebuild करना चाह रहा था वो. Yeah.
Yeah, they found a lot of people and tried to
Yeah.
code.
So now what they're saying is, now what Amazon's teams are saying it is ki we'll have a mandatory peer manual review by a human. It's like wow moment only. Because the model right now in its current form is calculating numbers and probability. It has no stake, no continuity, no intuition of where something is going wrong. Which brings us to the second problem, data bias and convergence. Now I'll try to explain this simply. Now there was a recent paper where the researchers wanted to find out what would happen if the AI is left alone to do tasks without human intervention. And what they found out was kind of interesting. They connected two models using a starting prompt. An image model generated a picture from that prompt. A language model described that image, and the description was fed back into the image model. Now the loop was repeated over and over again. They ran this experiment hundreds of times with completely different starting prompts. But the result was consistent. No matter what the prompt was, the system always drifted toward the same kind of images. Lighthouses, skies, interiors, visually appealing but pretty generic. Now the reason that certain types of images dominate the output, or the certain type of artistic styling dominates the output, is because the data behind that dominates the training data set. Yes, actually. Okay, and this is not just for images. Another research paper comparing different LLMs showed similar results. When asked open-ended questions, ideally these models should produce different kinds of answers, right? It's an open-ended question. There's no one true answer. But the models tended to give similar responses regardless of which company built them. That's exactly why everyone found that one bit of thing in my project interesting. Now, this is not just a bias problem. The reason that all models converge to similar or the same answer is because at the end of the day, the data is the same, the public internet. And the more common something is in the data set, that kind of becomes the most expected or accepted output. Expected, nahi, accepted. ACCEPT. Accept it. Now, the model has no mechanism to deviate from average. It's just built to predict the next most likely pattern. एक अच्छी movie है by the way. You guys should see this movie. It's called Humans in the Loop. It's on Netflix. You should totally see it. You'll get an insight on how actually training is happening. So hallucinations reduce long-term thinking and biases reduce experimentations. Now these are problems that machine learning hasn't been able to solve for now. So how do we use this to our advantage? With machine learning, the bottleneck in creative and technical work has shifted from simply producing things, because producing them is not tough anymore, is to knowing which version of your work is the better one, or which work is actually useful. That's what's more important now. A model has no way of knowing if the output is generated correct, if it's a hallucination or a generic converged answer that it is given to 20 other people asking the same question. The weakness is not going to be fixed. It will simply be managed, and the person managing them is you. Good, right? That gives me hope, actually. Now think about what that looks in practice, right? A 3D artist who spent years understanding human anatomy, they literally have textbooks on human anatomy, on lighting, on how surfaces interact. They might use AI to generate 10, maybe 20, 30 3D images in a few minutes. But they're also the ones who are most likely to look at those outputs and immediately recognize which one has incorrect physics, which one is overused, and which one is actually worth building on. And this judgment actually gets stronger the more you invest in your craft. So the feedback loop of actually doing real work, getting real responses, and reiterating on your craft, making it better every day, is more valuable than it will ever be. And another thing worth note, the barrier for entry may have reduced because of AI, but the gap has also increased for anyone working beyond entry level. You are naturally expected to do more because you have superhuman assistants in your pocket. Because AI reliably produces average or similar output, handcrafted work now stands out much more than it did before. So this hopefully has given you a good understanding of how to tackle AI in your work. Let us know how you are planning and coping with tackling AI, and yeah, let us know what you miss in the comments. I mean, I can't go bullish on AI, not yet anyway. What's interesting is this pattern repeats itself across letters, across the applications, many times emails as well. Email में लोग वो नीचे का निकालना भूल जा रहे हैं. Do you want to make it more punchier or more professional? Legit, there are newspapers in the Gulf, Times of India, Gulf News, and a whole lot of others. That final AI thing
Response.
is, yeah, that's even escaping the editor's eyes. What is the world coming to? That's because that's nothing but हम पूरे टीचर ऐसे ही रहते हैं, मलयाली टीचर्स, मलयाली तमिल, it's nothing but.
It's nothing but.
You also had Mallu teachers? Yeah. Somehow they're everywhere, no? Like all Mallu teachers everywhere, Tamil teachers. क्या बोला तूने? Tamil, sorry.